So now we're going to look at solving exponential equations that have a different base. And notice not only is this one going to have a different base, right? We have some value that's being added to the exponent that we're going to have to move over using inverse operations first. So we're going to follow that process. So when you see a problem like this, the first thing you want to do is we want to isolate the exponent. So I'm going to take this positive 18 and I'm going to subtract it from both sides of the equation using inverse operations. So this is adding 18, so I'm going to subtract 18. And that'll create 0 out of those two values. Now I have to keep the equation balanced, so I'm also going to go over and subtract it from the right side of the equation. And so we have 62 minus 18. So I can simply put this in my calculator, 62 minus 18, and it's going to give me 44. I'm then going to go ahead and bring down my exponent to line it up with this new value that we have. So I have 8 to the power of 2 minus x. Now if you try to figure out what number can multiply to itself to go into 44 to see if you can get the base of 8 to go into it, it's not going to work, right? Because 8 times 8 is going to be 64. That's already more than what we have here. So we can't convert this into a same base. So we're going to continue our practice. However, we're going to use a logarithm to solve this. So hopefully you looked at my introductory video to logarithms. If you haven't, you might want to watch that first before going any further. But at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to a log. So to do so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the log of 8 to the power of 2 minus x. And that's going to be equal to the log of 44. Now, we want to get rid of this exponent up here. And one of the things we can do with a logarithm is we can take that exponent and simply move it to the front of the logarithm. In other words, this now becomes 2 minus x, and I'm going to put that in parentheses, times log 8. And that's equal to log 44. And you might be looking at this going, Mr. Helbert, this still looks confusing. I'm not sure how this is helping. Well, what we can do is we have a log here and we have a log here, and this is simply being multiplied. I'm going to put a dot there just to remind you. This is simply being multiplied. And so what you do at this point is we want to divide out this log of 8 on the left and divide it out on the right using inverse operations, right? So I'm going to go and draw my line underneath. I'm going to divide by log 8 to get it away from my exponential power, which was 2 minus x. And I'm going to divide this side by log 8. So any value will go into itself one time. That leaves me with 1 times 2 minus x. So now I can just simply write what was our exponent as 2 minus x. And that's going to be equal to whatever log 44 divided by log 8 is. Now I'm going to put that in my calculator because I don't have that by memory. We got to use the calculator for that. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in log, hit my LOG button, right, and then 44, and I'm going to divide that by log 8. Hit enter, and we want to go ahead and we want to write this down in 3 decimals. So we want to round to the 3rd decimal. And so we have 1.8198. So write that 1.8198. And if I round this, right, and I'm going to round it to 3 decimal places, that 8 tells me to change that 9. So it tells me to change that 9 to a 10. Now obviously we can't put a 10, right, in this thousands place, so that 1 is going to carry over to the next digit. So we could rewrite this as 1.820. So 1.819 turned into 1.820. Now we're getting closer to being done. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and I'm going to continue to bring down this 2 minus x. But we're not finished yet because we want to isolate x and get it by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is move this 2 over to the right hand side. So I'm going to use inverse operations. That's a positive 2. So I'm going to subtract it so they cancel. And I'm also going to subtract 2 from the right side of the equation. So I'll just throw that in my calculator, and we have 1.820 to 0 minus 2, and it gives me negative 0.18. So negative 0.18. We're almost done. Notice now we have this negative x value that we haven't dealt with. And we don't want a negative x, we want a positive x. So I'm going to go ahead and divide out negative 1, which is the coefficient of x. That way that cancels out my negative sign. And I got to divide the right side by negative 1 as well. And all that does is change it to a positive. So my final answer is x is equal to positive 0.18. And that's my final answer.